Okay, Leo, please go ahead and take it away. We are live streaming now and recording. Looks like we just got to get you unmuted.
There we go. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. This is the Civilian Oversight Commission meeting, and I'm now calling it to order. These are difficult times for everybody. Not only the virus, we have the heat, we have outages, we have fires, but we are here, and I hope that in the midst of all this, you are all doing well. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you here. Our next meeting will be Thursday, September 17th. And of course, as you know from all the contacts we have with all of you, that even though when we're not here at our commission meeting, we of course have much work to do, and the staff has much work to do. A couple of really quick things initially. I'd like to introduce, and I hope I'm going to pronounce it right, Alex Zwiderweg, who is our new county council representative.
Say the pledge still.
Lauren Black has gone on to other things, and I see that Alex is here by phone, and we welcome her, and we will welcome her assistance. A couple of other things that I want to mention, just sort of preliminarily, and I'm sure when we get to the ad hoc presentations later, you'll hear more about it. First of all, on August 3rd, the sheriff notified the Board of Supervisors that he had made the moratorium on ICE transfers permanent, that he will no longer be transferring solely based on civil detainers. Just 2 days ago, that information has appeared on the sheriff's website. And as I said, there will be more when we get to the ad hoc presentations, but that is a major effort on the part of the Sheriff's Department. We welcome that. The community welcomes that. And I think that it goes a long way to help with transparency with the community. The other bit of news, and again, hopefully you'll hear more of that from the ad hoc committee on use of force, is that starting October 1st, there will be 1,200 body-worn cameras rolled out to be used in 4 or 5, I believe, stations and areas. The contracts have been signed, and after a long, long haul, we are finally going to move forward with that. So based on that, I'd like to ask Eric Montalban-Lara to please take the roll.
Leo Rubin.
Yes, present.
And Vera.
Hernan, we see your name, but we cannot hear you.
Robert Bonner.
Here.
Patty Giggins. JP Harris. Sean Kennedy.
Here.
Priscilla Oyen. Xavier Thompson. Casimiro Tolentino.
Here.
It looks like we have a quorum, Leo.
And I'm here as well, Hernan Vera.
That's great. Thank you. I know that many people are having problems with internet connectivity because of outages, power outages, et cetera. So we thank all of you for being here in a variety of ways. And hopefully everybody will stay connected. I'd like to ask Sean Kennedy to please lead us in the pledge.
Okay, everyone. I pledge of allegiance
To the
To the
flag
to the
flag,
flag of the United
United
States of
States of
America
America,
and to the republic
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
with liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you, Sean. As was indicated on today's meeting agenda, I want to provide if you want to provide live public comment, you must access the meeting through WebEx. Please use the web link to join the session with your first name, last name, and email with your computer or smartphone. When you register, you'll be able to select which agenda items you'd like to comment on. Your information will not be shared with other attendees. For those of you calling into the meeting, you must email us your comments at cocnotify@lacounty.gov. Please include the agenda item and meeting date in your correspondence. All correspondence received shall become part of the official record. When you are going to provide public comment, please be sure to eliminate as much background noise as possible. Depending on the number of participants, we'll either have 1 or 2 minutes per person of public comment. Please bear with us. We try to get better at this, and we will all do the best we can and hope that we have fewer and fewer issues as the time goes on. So at this point, I'd like to start with agenda item number 1. Is there any discussion or public comments regarding the minutes for July 30th?
We have one person who has signed up for public comment for administrative items, minutes, who is online now. Would you like to take them now, Leo?
Yes, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, and the first public comment will come from Tupe Asita. Please go ahead with your public comment regarding administrative matters, Tupe. It looks like we cannot hear them, Leo. That concludes the public comment for this item.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion among the commissioners regarding the agenda from July 30th?
Move approval of the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. At this point, I'd like to move to agenda item number 2. This is the update, discussion, and possible action regarding secret society subgroups. In February of this year, the sheriff approved the employee groups which violate rights of other employees or members of the public policy, which is another way of saying that according to the sheriff's policy, there will no longer be tolerated employee groups that affect other employees in the sheriff's department or members of the public in an untoward way. This is the first time that the sheriff's department has had this kind of policy. And as we said at the time, we applauded the sheriff for it and we welcomed it. Since then, the sheriff has announced the formation of a high-level effort in his department to rid the department of employees who participate in these groups and create harassment issues and illegal behavior. And tasked with that is Chief Matthew Burson and Captain William Yeager, who is currently the unit commander for internal affairs. And he and Chief Burson are going to be leading the charge to address allegations of misconduct related to secret society subgroups. Captain Yeager is here. We welcome hearing from him, and then we can address questions from members of the public and the commission. So, Captain Yeager, you've got the floor.
Okay, well, thank you very much to the commission for having me here today. Hopefully you can all hear me pretty well. I think you can. You know, I was asked to give a little bit of background as to my tenure with the department so that maybe that will help to kind of explain my background, which I think will be, you know, an advantage to people to understand where I've been with this department. So I've been with the LA County Sheriff Department now for 30 years. I have worked multiple assignments throughout the years, in total about 15 or 16 different assignments. So I've been throughout the organization. I've worked in our custody environment for over 6 years, both as a deputy and a sergeant. I've worked 8 different patrol assignments throughout the county, anywhere from Norwalk to Crescenta Valley to City of Industry. I've worked throughout the department. I've worked in our personnel division, so I know what it's like to handle personnel matters. And I've also worked at our training academy as an instructor for our new recruits. So I think that my broad base of knowledge throughout the department has brought me to the point of working here at Internal Affairs, and I've been with us for about 9 months now as the unit commander. So to the commission and to the group, I will share with you that these are obviously unprecedented times, not just for the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department, but also for law enforcement in general. I don't think that for our organization or for law enforcement in general, I don't think there has been a shy away from scrutiny and from oversight. I think that I have personally witnessed for the past several decades an advancement into oversight within the Sheriff Department and law enforcement in general, for that matter. I think that it's a positive step. I think there have been many positive steps that have been taken. And I think that we are on a cutting edge with this department and under the direction of this sheriff to move in ways that have not been seen before. And I think a policy, I think, is a very strong starting point. I believe that of note to the commission is something that has to be recognized, and I want to make sure it's known, that from the onset of a new policy, you have to have people that have violated that policy once it's been enacted, or it is not enforceable. And something that oftentimes is misunderstood is that we can go back decades and we can talk about all of the misgivings of any department, but those misgivings are in the past. And I can't enact a new policy and then hold past practices to that standard. So I think my message, for one, to the commission is that patience sometimes has to be in play. As we advance these policies and these procedures forward in how we're going to address this issue within the department and look at it. I don't think we're shying away from it. I think we're hitting it head on. But I also do believe we need to call for a certain amount of patience. You cannot just enact a policy and then go back several years or decades and expect to hold membership within this organization accountable for that. As far as, I think there is also, and a message I would like to send out, is that there is oftentimes a misunderstanding as to the procedures that we follow and for the reasons that we follow within this organization to properly take employees and process conduct, process concerns within the organization in a manner that is defendable. And it has to be defendable not only legally, but it has to be defendable within employment status, employment law. We are a department within the County of Los Angeles. We have hiring practices, we have employment practices that must be followed. And it's certainly ill thought to believe that internal affairs or any other entity within this organization can trample upon an employee's rights, hold them to a standard that's not defensible, and then believe that somehow the organization is going to be better. It's not going to be better because it makes the organization look as though it doesn't treat with respect its employees. So I think that if the commission would like, I'm more than happy to walk through the way that internal affairs would be involved in any manner, not just specific to a subgroup or a subculture, but I can certainly entwine that. Is it something you'd like me to do?
I'm sorry, please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I know we're all dealing with the mute question here. So the sheriff department is often, whether I've heard recently here in the media, and I do pay attention because it is part of the role that I have, but we're often criticized for not engaging quick enough. I commonly hear, well, what is internal affairs doing about this? Well, I'd like to start with internal affairs is a component within the department, but let's start with the incident. Something happens on this department that causes us to engage the entire department into the process of looking into a situation. And that might start with, and I'll use a tragic event. Let's say we have a shooting within the department. And unfortunately, deadly force had to be deployed, and it is everyone's job and task on this organization to get to the facts of what took place out there. And that begins with inviting several investigative groups to the scene of a shooting. And that would include our homicide detectives would be out there to process the scene. That would include Internal Affairs Bureau would be asked to walk the scene. In fact, when I talk about recent changes to law enforcement for several years now, we have invited the Office of Inspector General to be at that scene and walk those crime scenes. So certainly from the onset of any moment, we are inviting oversight and investigative bodies to the scene of a crime, an incident, to determine if we've had a crime involving one of our personnel. We're trying to get to the facts of the matter. We're trying to determine if we've had appropriate action on behalf of the department. We're trying to determine if we've had policies or tactics that may be need of review. And we're doing that with the oversight right from the beginning. From that moment forward, there is a long process that takes place. And I know it frustrates the public at times to hear, well, it takes time. Well, it does take time. Oftentimes, our homicide bureau will take several, if not multiple months to process that scene and to drill down on the facts and to obtain witness statements and evidence. During that time, after they get through that process, they turn it over to the district attorney's office, which does a thorough review of all of the investigation into what the sheriff department did. And they themselves have investigators that can go back and they can ask additional questions and they can do follow-up interviews. So, excuse me, right from the beginning, this process in looking at things that could be potentially criminal and ensuring that we have gathered all of the necessary facts to make a proper determination can often take upwards of a year, if not longer, to get through that process. I might add at this point, at this time, internal affairs within the sheriff department is still not engaged in that process. We are actively monitoring it, but we are not engaging in doing our own interviews because we have to be cognizant of an employee's right and citizens' right to their constitutional rights. And at that point, the sheriff department and our internal affairs cannot engage. It wouldn't be proper to do so. So we have to wait. So once the district attorney makes their determination, then that case comes back to the sheriff department. If they're not going to prosecute, or if it's going to be a rejected case, or if they're satisfied that the actions of the deputies were not criminal, then at that point, we now can start looking at policies. We can start looking at procedures. We can start looking at tactical conduct that maybe we want to review. Internal affairs then triggers into action, and we do a complete shooting review. And we take everything that was learned during the criminal investigation and we start re-interviewing our personnel. And we maybe start asking questions that are based in the tactics, that are based in what they saw, what they heard, and again, affirming that the policies and procedures that we have in play were adhered to. And if they weren't, we want to make sure that we, number one, address that issue. We want to make sure that we hold our employees accountable for what took place that evening. So that process of an investigation could take many, many months for internal affairs to process. So now we might well be a year and a half, 2 years down the road before we even get through that. But I need everyone to understand and be assured that we are looking in depth at every action to make sure that we have gotten down to the point of understanding exactly what took place. We convene a panel of commanders on the sheriff department that we call our executive force committee, and they review the findings of the investigation and they start asking questions. Well, what about this and what about that? And did they do this with the proper procedure in place? Now, I know this is meant to be about a subgroup and a subculture question. Oftentimes I'm asked, well, at what point do you ask them if they're, part of a subgroup or a culture on the department that's adversary to our overall core values? I can promise you that during the administrative process, what we are looking for is behavior that is contrary to the department. And we are very aggressive right now in maintaining a line of questioning and a line of background information that will confront an employee to ensure that we don't have an underlying tone going on behind this use of force, this shooting that may have taken place. So I think during the administrative process, which, remind you, is maybe a year and a half after the incident happened, would be at a moment that we could engage that process. Now, I know that's frustrating for many, that it's not fast enough, and you're allowing maybe potentially harmful employees that the public sees as harmful to continue forth. Well, that's not completely accurate. From the very onset of any investigation, we also do a critical incident review of all shooting or Category 3 incidents that would rise to a level of needing that review. And that also has a panel of commanders that would look from the earliest stages before internal affairs ever got involved in the investigation, if you will. They would be looking for, are there concerns here that we need to address? And we could immediately, administratively reassign some personnel if we needed to. We could take them out of the field work if we needed to, but it would be based in the initial facts that we had. But the in-depth facts don't happen until the investigation is complete. So I think it's important for everyone to understand. I often hear that internal affairs is not acting in a quick enough manner. And I think it's important to understand we have to maintain the constitutional rights of the legal process. We also have to maintain the employment rights of the employees throughout. And if we vary from that procedure, we are placing ourselves in a detriment to, if we do have an employee that is not acted correctly, we want to make sure that we can actually defend that case throughout. And particularly for internal affairs, we need to make sure that we can defend it through the employment process that they have a right to. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you. There are going to be more questions and more questions. You've given us much to think about, and I'm sure in the years that you've been with the department, you recognize that it is very frustrating, not only for members of the community who have been victimized by this kind of behavior, but also this commission that it just takes so long. And if there were any way to make this go more quickly, it would be welcome. I know that there's much in the way of legislation going on in Sacramento, but in any case, I'm sure you're aware of the frustration out in the community, and it's at least helpful to have this kind of initial presentation, whether we like it or not. And by that I mean that it just takes so long. So let me take some commissioner questions. Hernan?
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Captain Yeager. We appreciate you being here and all the years of service that you've given to the people of Los Angeles. I have two questions. The first is, can you speak more specifically to what affirmative steps your group or the specialized unit plans to take to disband current subgroups? That's the first. Specific steps to disband. And the second is, did I understand you correctly to say that you have to wait for a critical incident review or some type of active investigation of a use of force incident before you can engage a deputy in a conversation about whether he or she is an active member of a subgroup? Do I understand that correctly?
Well, okay, so I don't know which order you'd like me to go in. Let's start with whether or not I can have a conversation with a member of the department as to whether or not they're part of a subgroup. Again, I think that conversation has to be based around their behavior on the department. And I think it's critical that we remember that an employee that might belong to any number of sports groups or outside entity groups, that their behavior and conduct within the sheriff department, every day they come to work and their conduct appears completely appropriate and under the policies and guidelines that we have them employed. Why would I ever walk up to that employee and just simply ask them a question, do you belong to a subgroup? I think that's a conversation that would not elicit a proper response. And quite frankly, from your employer, I would ask the public, would you want to be walked up to while you're working as a barista at Starbucks and asked if you're part of a subgroup or a subculture? It just doesn't seem well conceived at that point. I think that if an incident takes place and a critical incident takes place, there is nothing to preclude this department from asking initial questions. However, they have to be relevant to the facts at hand. Remember, the initial investigation is to drill down on exactly what took place at that particular incident. Why did the deputy react in the manner that they did during that incident? What are the facts behind that? Not underlying things at that moment. We're trying to get the initial facts out on the table, because those actions, the actions that the deputy took, is what is going to be reviewed criminally at that moment. And that is something that we want to get to the bottom of initially right away. And that's why I told you about this extremely long process of ensuring that we haven't trampled someone's constitutional rights when we are looking at something that could potentially be a criminal action, potentially be. We want to make sure that we drill to the bottom of that.
And Captain, I don't mean to get in a back and forth, but there are ways, for example, that the city and the county with employees, many of which have to certify every year, I did not take a gift that creates a conflict of interest. People have to sign under penalty of perjury. So there are ways to do that if by that you're asking about certain activities that are not allowed and that are against policy. So I appreciate that. I don't know if there's room for that to change. I'm not the expert on that, but I just wanted a clarification on that. So on the second one, and I'm sorry I cut you off before you got to it, what affirmative steps can we look to or look forward to in terms of disbanding those on a going forward basis?
Well, let me use the second answer in conjunction with the first answer. When you say that there's room for improvement, I think that your improvement is already there. I think that an improvement of having a policy by any new person coming onto this department, an existing member, that clearly states that belonging to a subgroup can be detrimental to the community that we serve, I think is a very positive statement and a very positive step that this department has taken. So in answering what steps can we make, I think that has been a wonderful first step. And I think there's more steps that we can make, but this is not an exact science. And I do promise to everyone, if we had an exact methodology of being able to determine someone's will or desire in their head and know what their intentions were without an action to support it, well, I would be making millions and millions of dollars, because I think that would be an incredible feat. But I do say that until you have an action by an employee, some kind of conduct that might draw us to that moment, I don't think that there's going to be that aha moment that we can just run around and say this is happening. Now, we have done amazing work over the past 2 decades on this department in our tracking. You know, when people say you haven't advanced anywhere since, 1992, and I've heard that comment regularly, I say the tracking and the way that we track incidents and our employees' conduct has advanced leaps and bounds in 20 years. We have the ability to take an individual maybe that was involved in a significant use of force and look at their past conduct, maybe look and track some of that behavior. And again, all of those are being looked at, and we are doing reviews, and we are doing shooting analysis reviews on our employees to make sure that their conduct at a particular incident was appropriate and within the standards of the department. I think that these are all moves that not just this sheriff, but past sheriffs have made. I think this sheriff, though, has put it down in writing, and he has said affirmatively to everyone on this department, we will not tolerate that.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Captain.
Rob, you had your hand next.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Captain Yeager, for being here and your briefing. I've got to tell you, sir, though, based upon my review, not just on this commission, but the CCJV and my own knowledge and experience, that deputy clerks are a cancer on the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. They have been, and they still are. I'm not talking about sports groups. Secondly, I think pretty much in those stations where the clicks operate, I think you can safely assume that most of the deputies, the sergeants in those stations are well aware of the deputy clicks, who belongs to them and who doesn't. This is not rocket science investigation. As you said, Captain Yeager, policy is a starting point. So I applaud the sheriff who adopted a policy that prohibits deputy clicks, prohibits joining them, prohibits the continued participation in those deputy clicks. And he announced that policy 4 months ago. So it isn't yesterday, it was 4 months ago, it was back in April, that became policy. And that makes these activities going forward, not retrospectively, as you said, this isn't ex post facto, but going forward, it makes activities. It makes the joining of deputy cliques. It means people that are in cliques that are soliciting others to join them. It means that continued participation in those deputy cliques is now subject to a violation of policy and to discipline. And so, first of all, I have a couple of questions, but hopefully, whether this is through the Internal Affairs Bureau or whether it's through the chiefs of the stations, the supervisors that work in the patrol stations, the message needs to go out that continued participation in deputy cliques is subject to discipline and will be disciplined. That message needs to go out loud and clear. So my questions would be, first of all, is it the ultimate goal of the sheriff and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to eliminate deputy cliques? I want a yes or no answer, and then you can explain it. And secondly, has the table of discipline been modified so that the continued participation or joining in deputy cliques is subject to discipline up to termination of a deputy. So those are my two questions for you.
To a yes or no answer, sir, I can only say that as you have defined and as the definitions of these cliques are coming out, we do not want any conduct by any member of this department associated with a clique or a subgroup that is detrimental to the department, and we are absolutely committed to ending that behavior, 100%. So that is a yes for me. As far as getting word out to the organization, I can promise you that word has been passed along through executive command chains that this will not be tolerated by this sheriff or this organization. That has been done. I can promise you that as far as an investigative body within this organization, we are absolutely committed to drilling down and getting to the bottom of any activities that we can and that we know about, that and we will root that out. As far as the level of discipline that is applied to those employees, that is not in my purview to say. That would be something for the executive that are the decision makers to make that call. But certainly that is within their purview to make that. I hope that answers your question.
Well, not entirely, but I would like to know whether there has been an incorporation for disciplinary purposes within the table of discipline of essentially a violation of this policy, that is to say, joining or continuing participation in deputy cliques. But that's just a request at this point. Thank you for your answer, Captain Yeager.
Well, sir, I would follow up on that your specific question of does it show up within our guidelines for discipline? Within our bail schedule, that particular policy would be held within our general laws, rules, and regulations. That does have a bail schedule of a written reprimand all the way up through discharge.
Thank you.
Patty, you're next. Patty, you're muted.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you, Captain Yeager, for being here. And thank you, Commissioner Bonner, because I've been kind of stuck and you kind of weaved a little bit around my stuckness about this idea that this is a first step policy. It's a first step. And I just get the sense that the way I'm interpreting the seriousness of the existence of these groups throughout the history of the department and currently is that the actual joining a subgroup like this is conduct, not waiting for some type of action, some type of violation, some type of a group dynamic that might even have violence engaged in it or some type of discrimination. So I'm stuck on the conduct and status part of this. We have had gang databases for years, and a lot of it was about status. Somebody didn't do anything, but they were designated as being a participant and a joiner in a gang. Many, many people were in those databases because of affiliation, and it could be even a family member they were connected to that was in the gang, and then they were put in that database. So I'm stuck on this first step, and this is an opportunity to expand. I think what this commission wants is the first step and the last step. Not a soft approach, but a very tough approach. That it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable to have conduct. It's not acceptable to join and have a status with a subgroup like this. I mean, that's the only way that's going to change the history of the department on this issue. So, yeah, so that's I'm stuck on that. To my mind, joining is conduct and worthy of conversation. an inquiry and not waiting for some other more dramatic or more serious type of misconduct to generate the actual fulfilling of this policy, which I'm hoping that the department is really serious about.
Well, I can only comment to this, to your comments this way. First off, I don't consider this policy the first step that the sheriff department has ever taken to try and circle around behavior on this department that's contrary to our core values. And I point to the fact that within even our policy of equality sections that we have in treating one employee to another on this organization respectfully, that has come up with, that developed hazing policies, what we termed a hazing behavior years ago, where when you talk about behavior that we are looking to root out, we've been trying to root that out for many, many years. And if an employee is mistreated by another employee at a station, oftentimes we could initiate a hazing policy. So that's been on the books for many, many years. So I don't like to say that this is the first step. We have taken steps over my 30-year career to get better at this. And I can promise you that part of our challenge is also probably breaking the walls down amongst our employees, that oftentimes when we get complaints that come through the department, we are the secondary or third action that employee has taken. And I will point to the fact that it is very difficult when an employee engages in maybe legal actions against the County of Los Angeles as their first action, rather than bringing those concerns forward to the department, because that does handcuff the department's ability to look into its own behavior. We now are on a defensive, if you will, with regards to the legal action. And I think that becomes a real challenge and something that I think our employees need to understand, that we are very engaged and want to root out this behavior. But it has to come from our employees having I'll just say intestinal fortitude to step forward and actually tell us what is taking place on this organization as their first line of defense. Because if we know about it, then you can hold us accountable for not taking action. But if we do not know about it and we were not told about it until well after legal proceedings have taken place, you've left us with a defensive mode of saying we were unaware of that. And then we have to do the cleanup work. So I can't get into a legal definition of exactly what terms we're going to use or the way that we're going to intertwine those legal terms into those policies. But I can say that from an investigative body, we are absolutely committed to ensuring that every member of this department can come to work free of the hazards of, term it hazing, term it a subgroup, term it a clique. We want to make sure that every employee comes to work every day and has the ability to do the work for LA County that it has been hired to do.
I have a couple of additional questions to throw in here, and then we'll get to some other commissioner questions before we get to public comment. And that is, we continue to be bombarded by news accounts, in particular what started out at East LA Station, the Banditos, and now in Compton. That's unfortunately, as you described, what brings, the at least described behavior as outrageous and brings it to light. And I think that's what presents some of the greatest frustrations as an oversight body that we have, is that we are first learning about this, reading about it from claims and lawsuits, and what we want, and I think what the public wants, is for the sheriff to take charge of this, and as has been described, root it out before it ever gets to a point of being a public complaint and a news article. So, this is not a matter that we are going to go home on. I'm sure you're aware, and I'm sure that the sheriff has directed you and Chief Person that this is a matter that will remain in the public purview, that will remain as an oversight issue. And if the department is really serious about rooting it out, we will support you if you do it. And if you don't, we'll be here to criticize. Any other commissioner questions before we go to public comment? Kaz?
Thank you, Captain Yeager, for your testimony. Let me follow up with what Judge Bonner was saying, because when I first came on board, I read the study group that the report, and that was what, about 10, 12 years ago, Judge? And it gave me a lot of insight into what these employee subgroups were. And so it's not new. And it just seems like we're naive about approaching this whole situation. And I think the sheriff now, Villanueva, is seeing it as a first step. I remember clearly in his first testimony, in which I was present, he said he literally dismissed it as these are fraternities. Oh, come on, guys, these are fraternities. They are not fraternities, and it's not hazing. So for him to come back, 2.5 years later with this policy just seems as if he's just, well, I guess I'll have to put this in writing. But it's been there. You know, it's like as Judge Bonner says, you go forward, but there's still these remnants of all these employee subgroups. We had testimony from the Sheriff's Department that you had symbols of these subgroups on doors. It was even engraved in a tile in one of the offices. To have steps been taken in these 4 months to dig out that tile, cross out those symbols, and essentially following up on what Judge Bonner says, putting disciplines in your discipline guidelines, wearing T-shirts that have those symbols, and certain kinds of tattoos. I mean, are those now like the same way that you have discipline guidelines with respect to DUI? You know, you have certain percentages and how many incidents are occurring. So in lots of ways, this stuff is not new, and it just seems odd. And I guess I'm stuck like Patty saying that this has been around. We have a RAND study that's ongoing. We've been talking about this for the past couple of years. And so it seems like we need to move a little. There's no sense of urgency about what's going on. It just seems to me that if you have information about a deputy subgroup involved in an incident, that you would take that to heart immediately without having to wait for a long chronology and a timeline of investigation. So it seems to me that we need to speed it up. It needs to be more of a last step than a first step. So going back to my first question, are all these remnants of the symbols of these deputy subgroups been eradicated, removed, or steps have been taken now to make sure that they don't show up again?
Well, sir, I can't give you a definitive answer as to whether or not every symbol on this department that would be attached to behavior that or conduct that would be unbecoming this department has been eradicated, because I think that's a slippery slope to go down. I'm not sure what that symbol or behavior that you would attach it to. I don't think that's what I'm suggesting to you. Is that we have to stay behind the fact that an employee's behavior and the behavior associated with something is what we are looking to root out.
Well, you know, it was very specific from your staff that they had symbols of banditos on the doors. They had symbols of banditos on the floor, and it was engraved in tile. It doesn't seem like it would take such a leap that somehow that symbol of a bandito, you know, has some moderating force, I suppose, or someone says, "Oh no, that's not what it really means." It seems to me that even based on the study that I remember Judge Bonner sharing with me, that they identified what the symbols were. And it seems to me that you make a list. Well, I don't know what you make a list. Here are the symbols that we've identified and said reflect things that are contrary to the sheriff's policy. Take steps to get rid of them.
Okay, I was muted there for a minute. So my answer to you, sir, is when we talk about a first step and we talk about, and I don't like that term first step because as I've clearly said that we have had steps throughout the years that have addressed certain segments of this. When it comes to the policy that this sheriff has enacted, we are now on this path to finding out. And if we, in say East Los Angeles, we now have maybe an associated group of individuals that we've said their conduct was not appropriate. For the sheriff and the management team above me, if they determine that means that symbol that is associated with it, I don't disagree with you. But I also say as an investigative body for this organization, we can't just take somebody's suggestion that a particular symbol on this department is contrary to the organization's beliefs. We have to do an investigation to determine what that symbol actually means and where it was grounded in, where the name came from. We need to understand everything we can about what people are jumping to that symbol meaning. Otherwise, we might as well ban everything in the world because it could have a contrary meaning.
Well, I understand your point, but it seems to me that we're reinventing the wheel again because it was essentially in a PowerPoint from your staff, in which they showed, here's a photograph of a symbol on a door, and that represents the Banditos. They didn't show us the photograph, but they acknowledged the fact that it is on the tile. So it seems to me the first step is at least this one symbol has been identified. In Judge Bonner's study, many symbols were identified. So it seems to me you don't have to reinvent the wheel and start afresh. You can start off with the prior studies that have been going on. I don't know how long Judge Bonner's group studied it for, but it's a massive report.
But sir, I might add to that conversation that if that symbol was thrown out there as being something negative for the department, but the department did not have behavior that was associated to that symbol that was contrary to its policies and procedures, then as an organization, we had no cause to root it out. I can promise you that as we go through this process, if we determine certain symbols or logos, whatever you want to call them, are associated with absolute bad behavior on this department, well, that is a conversation for the sheriff to have as to whether or not he plans to eliminate that symbol. But I don't think it's a far stretch at this point. But I think that we have to have associative behavior that is tied back to that. We can't just have somebody walk forward a symbol and say that deputies are doing bad things based on that symbol. That would be ill-conceived in my mind.
If a deputy,
Okay, just one second, Rob. I take exception to your statement, and certainly, the issue was raised and described well by Commissioner Tolentino, that there are not any symbols that in and of themselves need to be rooted out and eliminated. I mean, if there were symbols of white hooded individuals that everybody clearly understood to be a symbol of the KKK or the symbol of the Nazi logo, I think that anybody would be hard pressed to say those symbols have no place in this department. I mean, those are just two examples, but there are some that cannot suggest anything other than behavior that does not belong in the sheriff's department. And in that regard, I like the suggestion of Vice Chair Vera, who raised the issue that in many organizations, everybody has to sign a document at the beginning of every year, or at the end of every year, that I'm not committing any kind of behavior that is a conflict of interest or something else. I mean, so I would urge you and Chief Person to consider that as a possibility of well. But
well, if I can comment on that, because I don't want to leave it hanging, because I absolutely do understand your point, and I do understand that I do not mean to suggest that there are any number of symbols that I too would not be offended on if I saw them. But I would point out this, that the symbols that you just mentioned are well grounded historically in behavior that was contrary to the good of society as a whole. And I think that that's what I'm saying about our current symbols on this department. We need to build that history in showing that the behavior associated with the current symbols we have are contrary to the good of this department. And I think that as we do, if it is then decided by the sheriff that those symbols will absolutely be removed, that is a conversation for the sheriff to have with his executives. That being said, I understand your point. There are certain known symbols to the world that are absolutely contrary to the good of our society. And I agree with you, they should not show up anywhere. However, I'm saying that the symbols that we currently have that are being broadcast as being these terrible symbols for the organization, I'm not prepared to say until I have conduct by my membership that shows that they are acting in a manner that is contrary to this organization, then I'm not prepared to say that the symbol itself is the problem. I don't know until I know. That's what I'm suggesting there.
Rob, I had interrupted you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Captain Yeager, I mean, talking about conduct and behavior, let's say a deputy tomorrow at one of the stations solicited another deputy to join a clique. Would that not violate this policy and be subject to discipline?
Well, certainly if we knew of that behavior taking place, I think it's something we would have to look into. When you say asking them to join, well, what are they asking them to join? What are they asking them to do? What are the details behind joining what?
Well, they're asking them to join the executioners and to put on a tattoo, which is a symbol for the executioners, that has a skull with either a biker helmet or a German helmet. Has a gun with smoke coming out of it. That's what they're asking him to join. I'm saying this, look, your policy says that it prohibits joining deputy cliques. So if somebody solicits a person to join one, doesn't that violate policy? And if you tell me no to that question, we might as well forget this.
Well, sir, I understand what you're suggesting, but I can promise you that part of what you're asking me to affirm is that, of course, if some deputy walked up to another deputy and said, I want you to be a member of a group that is, and here are the rules to what you have to do to go out and perform in a certain manner to be part of this group. But if we just have a simple question of, hey, there's a symbol and it's because people are proud of working at a particular station, there's no associative behavior that I can say would violate that particular situation. Now, to your point,
the behavior, excuse me for interrupting, the behavior is asking another deputy to join a deputy clique where the sheriff's policy has prohibited deputy cliques. Why isn't that behavior alone a violation of the policy subject to discipline?
And I'm not saying, and I'm not suggesting that we would not look at that, but we have to know that that behavior was taking place, meaning someone was asked to join a particular subgroup. If we know of that, then that gives us cause to look into that.
Thank you.
Patty, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes, this is to my fellow commissioners. I'm having this experience right now of public relations, a kind of tautology, talking around things, and I am concerned that this, and I use the term first step because Captain Yeager did use that. And so I just cannot, I don't know what you're experiencing, but I am experiencing a tremendous amount of frustration. This has been going on since we first convened as a commission. We now have a stated policy, but I keep hearing that we're backing off, that the sheriff's department, or at least the way it's presented today by Captain Yeager, keeps backing off actually doing something. We have expressed, and others have expressed, and the community has expressed, rooting out deputy cliques, deputy gangs, subgroups. And today I was looking forward to really getting a little more meat on the bone about how that was going to happen. And I'm not hearing that. And I don't know about you, but we've been sitting here for 3 years waiting for some serious action on this. So that's my comment.
And I cannot allow that to just stand as a position of this department. I absolutely denounce that and say that to say that we are not moving in a positive direction or an affirmative direction is absolutely false. We have done more in the 9 months that I have been assigned here to Internal Affairs Bureau in investigating and digging in and drilling down into the known behavior that we have been engaged in to root out any suggestion that it is a subgroup or a subculture that is creating this problem. And I will point no further than our initial case with the East LA situation as that example. Now, all of the details are not out on that. It is still in process, but I can promise you that I have active investigations right now, most of which I have never heard in my 30 years ever taking place at the level or intensity that they are right now. So I will not sit here and say that this current administration is not taking affirmative action to address this issue. That is not correct.
You're muted, Leo.
Oh, no, I'm not.
I think Max wants to speak.
Right, I know. I was going to suggest that he go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just want to respond to what Commander Yeager has said about rejecting the point that this body should be frustrated. For 7 years, I've been begging the Sheriff's Department to address secret societies. The response that I got under this administration a year ago was the OIG computer access was shut off. My office, my staff were placed under criminal investigation for doing our jobs. The LSDS failed to comply with lawful subpoenas from this body. It has refused to provide documents I have requested on the subject of secret societies, as well as many other subjects, or allow real-time monitoring of current investigations. So to say that Oversight is on a steady upward path towards some great future is to ignore the history of the incredible backsliding we've had in the past period that's before us right now. Commander Yeager talks about wanting to stand or fall on what's happened right now, recently under this administration in the last 9 months. Well, that includes the Kennedy Hall investigation, the criminal investigation, which is complete. 180 days have passed since the incident and 30 days since it was rejected by the district attorney's office. In that case, 23 deputies did not give statements against secret society members, even though Sheriff's Department policy requires it. They didn't assert the Fifth Amendment. They were given the opportunity to simply not talk. And so they didn't. That's in violation of Sheriff's policy. It's the continuation of a code of silence that has existed for 50 years and that exists, at least existed at that time. Whether or not it exists now, I don't know. But when a person tells you they have 5 aces, but they won't show you their cards, forgive me for being skeptical. They didn't, in that investigation, ask about the alleged motive of the Kennedy Hall incident, the banditos. And that wasn't the first time that kind of enforced from above secrecy had continued. There are numerous instances of internal investigations not properly conducted before that. And now we have the executioners, in which we have internet photographs of a skull with a Nazi M95 1935 Stahlhelm helmet, a Nazi helmet tattooed on people's bodies in an organization that is alleged to discriminate based on race and gender, as were the banditos alleged, as most of these alleged deputy gangs are alleged. And you're hearing that the department refuses to investigate those entities to see if indeed they are violating the rights of their own employees as well as citizens, and has obstructed the Inspector General's investigation, which was initiated years ago, but which this body directed me to proceed with. So I reject the idea that it is wrong for this body to be concerned. I welcome this policy. When I first met with the sheriff in December after he was elected, I proposed a policy a little tougher than this one, but similar. But it had an important element, which is getting rid of secrecy. It's fine to say we only want to prohibit deputy conduct which is inappropriate. But if you then allow a veil of secrecy and never find out, you're enabling that conduct. So I hope that eventually the conduct of the sheriff's department will be to allow actual oversight of this process, of all the investigations they're doing, the Guardado investigation, the executioner investigation, the Kobe Bryant helicopter crash alleged cover-up investigation, which is a subject of a subpoena from this body. I hope that happens. But to date, there's no evidence of it happening, and the only evidence we have is the opposite. And as has been pointed out by the commissioners, what we're being told here is we're not going to investigate these groups. We're not going to identify the members, and we're not going to comply with our Brady obligations to do that. When you have an organization, gang-like or not, within the sheriff's department, and people are testifying, criminal defendants have a right to know if indeed the members who are testifying against them are part of a secret organization that does things that aren't always in line with the policy of the department. So I want to echo what some commissioners have said. It's deeply disturbing. The last thing I want to say is masks, because what you're hearing is, well, it's been ordered, it's been passed down to all the folks in the troops. So secret societies are now going to be disappearing. Well, the sheriff has gone on social media and said that he has ordered the wearing of masks by deputies. But every single shooting that my staff go to, no deputy wears masks, including command staff. And that was before he made those statements. I sent him a letter talking about it, got no response. And since then, it continues to be the case. If the sheriff himself has ordered during a pandemic in which people are dying for his deputies to wear masks to protect the people around them, including themselves, and they won't do it, why would we think that a person who will tattoo a skull with a Nazi helmet on it will cease and desist simply because it's been shared through some departmental email? This requires a thorough investigation of the sort that has been ordered by this commission, that is required by state law and local law, and which the sheriff's department is resisting at this time. Thank you.
I don't know if you want to respond to any of that, Captain Yeager. There was a lot there.
Yeah, I can appreciate Mr. Huntsman's enthusiasm. He made a lot of statements there. I don't know that I would certainly agree with the facts behind a lot of the statements that he made. As an investigative body, I can tell you that I heard much in his comments that were not actually factually correct. However, I will maintain the fact that, as I said in the beginning, there is a process, and as an investigative body, I'm not going to release information to hinder that process, because I'm committed to ensuring that by the end of this, we have done due process for all involved. So I'm not here to say that. I, again, have been, and I think I've been very clear in stating that we are very aggressive right now in this organization in getting to the underlying problems and including any subgroups or subcultures. I will not be misstated on that, and I will not walk away from this with any other statement other than I assure this commission and the public that the sheriff department and this sheriff is committed to that. Now, that being said, you can continue to say it, but I'm not going to agree with that.
Commissioner Kennedy, you had a question.
Thank you for discussing this important issue, Captain Yeager. My question is, what, if anything, is the sheriff's department doing to notify the district attorney that deputies who are testifying in criminal trials are affiliated with a deputy clique or gang because even if there isn't evidence to prosecute a crime, the Brady evidence that our Inspector General referred to is clearly in play. But if you're not investigating, how will the Sheriff's Department notify the trial prosecutors that the investigating officer or the gang expert who comes from the Sheriff's Department is himself affiliated with a deputy subgroup that has a code of silence, extreme loyalty, lying to protect the group, all of the things that were mentioned in like the Jump Out Boys creed that was seized in, I think, 2013.
Well, sir, I can only respond to you by saying that that is outside my purview. I am an investigative body to get to the facts of a situation. As far as whether or not it's going to be turned over to the district attorney and in what fashion that would be done, I would defer that to our county council and to, other entities that would handle those matters. I can't comment on that.
I would suggest, Captain Yeager, that should be a matter that you and Chief Person should refer to whomever will be making that decision. So, because I think that that's a significant issue. At this point, I think we have some members of the public who have indicated that they have public comment, and we can come back and try and tie this together. Thank you.
Okay, and we do have 7 members of the public who are set up to speak on this item. First, we a comment in Spanish, an announcement in Spanish.
Si necesita que su comentario sea traducido al inglés, por favor diga la palabra inglés antes de su comentario y alguien traducirá su comentario después de que termine. Gracias.
Thank you. And our first comment will come from WM. Please go ahead with your comment.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know how much time do we have. Is it like 1 minute with some of the other meetings, or I can have a few minutes?
Lael, will we be doing 1 minute or 2 minutes?
Okay. All right. So I'll try to go quickly. This is for Captain Yeager. I'm not familiar with, I'm a public person, so we're not always familiar with all the internal workings. So this is my first time actually meeting him virtually. So, but just on some of the comments, first I want to thank the commissioners, because I've actually heard, and I've been on these calls before, but you don't always get to see everybody at the same time. So as far as the commissioners, I want to thank you for representing the public today, because I've heard many of you come back with very valid points. And as I was sitting here raising my hand, many of the things you've already addressed. So I thank you for that. And I thank you for representing us the way we should be represented, because I'm also very concerned about how Mr. Yeager is coming across. And so I do want to, just as much as I can, I have a lot, but obviously I might not be able to get to everything. But for example, when you ask the public to be patient, we cannot be patient anymore. We've been patient. Our people are dying. And I know you have to use, you don't have to, but you're using euphemisms. You're using the investigative process to sort of hide behind. But if you say you've been there for 30 years, you must at some point be able to recognize that something should have been done in 30 years. For one, if employees come to you and tell you that their things are going on, we know that in these systems, employees get retaliated when they whistleblow. I'm sorry?
That does conclude your time.
Oh no, I had so much. Okay. Okay.
And the next comment will come from Julie Diaz-Martinez. Please go ahead with your comment, Julie.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We in the community of East LA have been complaining about gangs for generations and have been told they didn't exist. So it is progress that Villanueva now admits that they are there. But we're sick and tired of hearing that these are cliques. You make it sound like this is a fraternity or a group of cops that join together because they like the same car. These are gangs. These are gangs with rites of passage. These are gangs who brag about rites of passage. Some of the rites of passage include shooting, beating, and yes, they do calculate how many activities they involved with in order to embolden their particular gang. Shootings of residents is not acceptable. These gangs are nothing worse than a criminal syndicate or a criminal mob that have been hidden within the sheriff department for years.
And Julie, if you could just take a pause. Bill, I wanted to confirm, are we doing 1 minute or 2 minutes? It seems like we would have time to do 2 minutes and we could go back to the last speaker and allow her an additional minute if you would like, Leo.
This is such an important issue. Why don't we go ahead and do that?
Excellent. So we'll continue on and give Julie 1 additional minute, and WM, we will come back to you and give you an additional minute. So Julie, please go ahead. You have 1 minute remaining.
Villanueva recently said he will not hold an inquisition within the LA County Sheriff Department to root out who they are. Why not? They do this to our children, to our residents, to our brothers, to our fathers. They strip them in the station and take photographs of the gangs. Why are we not treating the gangs within the sheriff department just like we do any other gang? Why is there not a gang database book where we can calculate these images? I'd like to refer really quickly to what Captain Yeager said. His answer is, being a part of a gang is not inherently wrong unless there's behavior associated with. When the gang is called the executioners, they are establishing within the community that they are the arrestee, they are the judge, they are the jury, and they are the executioner, and they are advertising that with a multiple Nazi symbols, which is the Nazi helmet and which is the Nazi gun as well.
Okay, thank you, Julie, and that does conclude your time. And now we will go back to WM. Please go ahead. 1 minute remaining, WM.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll just go quickly. Administrative reassignment, Mr. Yeager, you mentioned. We know that when people are reassigned and they're not reprimanded, they carry the behavior with them. So no matter where they go, we'll still have a problem. We have to fix the issue, prosecute, terminate, etc. Make it very clear that these are problem behaviors and they will not be tolerated. The language that you used at one point, you mentioned when you were talking about incidents, you said you want to know why the sheriff reacted that way. That's already biased because reaction implies that somebody did something. We know for a fact that some of these officers are out there inciting, provoking, and agitating citizens, and then giving false narrative, etc. Another thing, you talked about tracking and policy. We know that tracking and policy does nothing without accountability and prosecution. I've already talked about being retaliated against if you're an employee. Symbols. We know that when you're an employee, especially a public employee, you cannot come in anywhere, even with a T-shirt that might have politics on it or anything. So it's not allowed. You can't do it. So how are they having things that are pre-printed and tattoos, etc.? So, okay. Is that my time?
Thank you. That does conclude your time, WM. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And the next comment will come from Audrey George. Please go ahead with your comment. Audrey, you have 2.
Yes, to Mr. Yeager, nobody's buying your bullshit excuses for sheriff's gangs. We're supposed to be placated by the allusions you make to LASD having a process, however ineffective, secretive, and blatantly disingenuous. How can everybody but you not recognize the racist and violent origins of symbols that are displayed in your sheriff stations? These symbols are and have long been causing trauma, violence, murder of Black and Indigenous and other people of color. This is true harm. We can't continue to be patient with you, to ignore the fact that you are accepting this behavior as being normal and within the bounds of what's acceptable for your employees. Personnel's legal rights are being overprotected while the ongoing harmful impact continues and the rights of citizens are disrespected, ignored, and neglected by our cowardly and corrupt sheriff, just as he dismisses the legal rights of this commission to demand his presence at these meetings. No sense of urgency is being heard on your part on a matter that has been on the table for many years. Stop Stop accepting this. Stop excusing it. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next comment will come from Tamar K. Please go ahead with your comment, Tamar.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
It was really hard to listen to that gentleman, Bill Yeager. It was disgusting, right? He needs to go. 30 years in the department, and he has not implemented one change. Y'all know that these organizations, they're not even organizations, gangs, banditos, and executioners exist within the department. They murdered Andres Gordardo, 18 years old. Y'all tried to sweep it under the rug. They murdered Ryan Twyman. They murdered AJ Weber. They murdered Anthony Vargas. And then they continue to harass the families. Just recently, Anthony Vargas' family has been harassed at his own memorial. They did the same thing at Ryan Twyman's memorial, right? You know these gangs exist. This guy sits up here like a propaganda machine, right? Spewing out all kinds of lies. Villanueva thinks he's above the COC and evades subpoena power by the COC. He plans on doing nothing. This is disgraceful, right? Yup, we need to defund the sheriff. Villanueva needs to go. And Bill Yeager, you need to get the F out. All you did was sit here and lie to the community and try to uphold white supremacy and this continuation of the murder of Black and brown people. Y'all are trying to sweep it under the rugs. There's symbols on doors and floors and tattoos, and y'all are ignoring it. You continue to murder our people out here with zero accountability, and you talk about how you investigate yourselves. How is the person responsible for the crime supposed to investigate themselves? That's problematic, right? And you bring it to DA Jackie Lacey, and she continues to sweep 620 murders. We're at 620 now. In Pasadena, a brother was just shot. I know that's not our jurisdiction, but Anthony McLean was shot.
Thank you. And Tamara, that does conclude your time. Our next public comment will come from Joseph Maslich. Please go ahead with your comment.
Hello, board members. A few topics I'll try to go through quickly. One of them is, I think you're going at this pictures on the walls or the door and so on backwards. A symbol that's presented for public view should be presumed to represent the organization. There's no burden of the organization to find out if that subgroup or club or symbol represents something dirty or illegal or contrary to the organization's goals or anything. It's a presumption as a representative, and for that reason, that stuff should go, even if it's a symbol of my nice and friendly high school graduating class, whatever it is. That's for one thing. Another thing is, it's tough in a hierarchical organization. It's going to tend to generate sub-clubs and everything. For me, I study these groups about what happens at the edges. I think Commissioner Giggins brought up, are people, what's the joining process? What's the exiting process? Is there any inducement related to work for joining or any penalty related to work for not joining? Such as assistance in promotions or any kind of favors in the job, in the job functions. Is there anything related to, are people threatened with punishment for discussing the organization openly? Intimidation, whether for job related or just plain violent intimidation. People feel that stuff, and I believe it's there. And this is studying the boundaries of whatever clubs. We don't have to talk about, people have their rights to association, whether they're workers or not, whatever it is. But are there any of these inducements? And these are criminal acts, terrorist threats, implied or direct against people, or violation of the job rules. And I think if those factors are happening, you know that what's going on there is no damn good. But all you do is you look at the boundaries.
And that does conclude your time. Our next comment will come from Michelle Infante. Please go ahead with your comment, Michelle.
Bill Yeager, you try to paint a pretty picture of deputy gangs. Violent. Your choice words, deputies acting correctly. You don't say deputies that assault other deputies. You say subgroups and cliques. You don't say gangs. You talk about inappropriate deputy behavior, not deputy acts of violence. Your deputy gangs have tattoos. They retaliate, they intimidate, they kill. They are made up of a particular color, and they intimidate and retaliate against families for years and years and years. There is a reason why you have complaint sheets to accept the complaints of the community, and the community files multiple complaints, yet you have deputies who are repeat offenders and you do nothing about it. Transferring deputies to different stations does not eliminate deputy gangs. Independent investigation should be done outside LASD because it's very apparent for decades and decades, including centuries, that your department cannot, and it is a conflict of interest for you to be investigating yourselves. All you do is, especially the COC, stop downplaying the very dangerous deputy gangs. Use the language that's appropriate. You do it for the community outside. You need to do it when you're up here using your platform and saying, these are deputy gangs, they're very dangerous, and it needs to stop now. There's a conflict of interest with you investigating yourselves. We need independent investigative powers outside of LASD to stop this violence and the violence that kills people in our community.
Thank you. The next comment will come from Justin Porter. Go ahead with your comment, Justin.
Hello. I'm a resident in the community. I live in unincorporated East Los Angeles, and this is a little bit of a different the nature of my comment. I'm a veteran, and I'm a combat veteran, and this county has the policing is bad here. I mean, I got to be honest, and frankly, I've had sheriff show up to my house and harass me on bogus calls aggressively and not wearing the mask. And I've been trained personally, being a veteran, to wear my personal protective equipment. And I know what that this illustrates. The policy of the sheriff department, it doesn't respect the civilians. That they don't respect the state of affairs with the pandemic. So I ask that you enforce higher standards of conduct and personal accountability, because that would really make a difference, I think, with the public image of the sheriff's department among the people here. Because I'm suffering. People who are patriots are suffering right now, and yeah, I don't like hearing the negative comments spoken about the sheriff's department for these issues that are not being addressed properly. So my recommendation is start wearing the mask, start wearing proper uniforms, and start addressing, issues of individual responsibility that need to be addressed. And you could call me on this one. You could talk to me. I can be reached. I'm a resident of East Los Angeles. I'm disappointed with the lack of accountability and personal accountability of the members of the sheriff's department. And I think that needs to be addressed above the association of these groups, because frankly, I think that this is going to continue to get worse because of the nature of these investigations.
And that does conclude your time. Thank you. And the next comment will come from Andrew Lewis. Please go ahead with your comment, Andrew.
Hello, am I on?
Go ahead.
Okay, hi. I'm just very disheartened and very let down by what I'm hearing today. This commission is covering for murderers, blatant murderers, and they're just going to have to live with this history for the rest of their lives. And also, this is something that'll leave a lasting stain on this police department, on the sheriff's department. And it's just sad that they're bickering about logistics and trying to dance around the issue when clearly there are criminals in the department, and this commission is doing nothing but covering for them in a very blatant and toxic way. I would hope at some point they would all send in resignation letters for those who are not acknowledging what is going on inside the department. That's all.
Thank you. And the last comment will come from Regi Bunch. Please go ahead with your comment, Regi.
Yes, quickly. I think it's really important that a conversation around expanding the investigative power of the COC is really important. It's obviously the Sheriff's Department can investigate themselves. You all need your own lawyers. I think this Captain Yeager guy has been extremely flippant when talking about sheriff violence. He obviously doesn't know that if it sounds like a duck, walks like a duck, it's definitely a duck. And if they're calling themselves the executioners and they have skulls, they're not walking around telling people about Kamala bears. These people are very dangerous people, killing people, killing people. And I hope Captain Yeager sits with that. This is what this is about, life and death. That someone's child is not here anymore, someone's father, someone's mother is not here anymore because of your gangs. And so COC, you need your own lawyers because the Sheriff's Department cannot investigate themselves. He obviously does not care. You got a federal judge sitting here trying to ask for specific, clear answers, and yet he was very condescending back to the entire CLC staff. And I thought that you all would have, with all this communal outcry about this, that you would show some type of sympathy and empathy for what's going on, but yet you still lack that moral courage to have sympathy. People are dead because of these gangs. They are dead. D-E-A-D. They're not coming back to speak before this council. They are dead. So COC, you need your own investigative power. Thank you.
Thank you. And one more person did sign up for public comment. Jean-Marie, please go ahead with your comment, and this will be the last public comment for this item.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, COC. I would like to direct our attention to where these gangs are. I heard an elected official say yesterday that they don't have this issue on the west side, and she's right. East LA, right? We have names such as the Vikings and the Reapers and the Regulators, Cowboys, 2,000 and 3,000 Boys, the Jump Out Boys, and just recently Banditos and Executioners. Those names speak for themselves. We don't even need the conduct, even though we have those as well. Those names speak for themselves. When you're executed and you're jumping out on folks and you're calling yourself a Viking and a Reaper and a Regulator, these are the ways that law enforcement are behaving in our community, and specifically Black and brown communities, because they don't do this stuff in the communities where they live. They don't have those gangs on the west side. They have them in Black and brown communities, and they have them in Black and brown communities for a reason. And the captain talked about focusing on conduct. Yet still, if we focus on conduct, why don't we do that with regular alleged gangs in our communities? Why are children or babies as young as 6 months old are on gang databases, but when we have clear symbols of murder, clear symbols of ethnic cleansing, clear symbol of crime, we're calling them, saying, well, we need to wait until they act, wait until they kill more people? What are we talking about? That's it. I'm done. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. And that does conclude public comment for this item.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you for the public comments. Thank you, Captain Yeager, for being here and responding to questions. We wish we had more information. We wish that we could go more quickly. We wish that the conduct would speak for itself. But at least we're happy that you have come at least hear some of our concerns. So unless any other commissioners, and I see a hand from Commissioner Harris, who had not had an opportunity to speak. So we'll do that, and then we'll probably take a break.
Thank you, Chair Rubin. I just have to lend my voice to this discussion. I am as disappointed as anyone at what's going on with these groups. I've been around the Sheriff's Department for 46 years. And I am embarrassed by what is going on right now. To have 20 people with identical tattoos with a German Nazi helmet and a skull on their calf. And we don't seem to be able to figure out that maybe there's a connection here. I appreciate Regi and his analogy to the duck, because that's exactly where I was going. I think members of the public have spoken today loud and clear. I hope the public has heard from us, because I don't hear anyone on this commission saying that we're going to take our foot off the gas. There is a problem here. I appreciate the rights of deputy sheriffs, and they have a right to be investigated fairly. Absolutely. But the public has a right to have confidence in its sheriff's department. And right now, they are lacking that confidence because of these groups, cliques, gangs, call them what you wish. But it is not in the best interests of good law enforcement to allow these people to continue to operate seemingly with impunity throughout the sheriff's department. I know darn good and well that there are people who would love to come forward and say what they know, but they are intimidated. That is horrible. I can't even imagine working in that type of an environment today. So I hope that Captain Yeager, and I'm sure he does, he's heard what this commission has had to say. He has heard what the public has had to say. I appreciate the public comment. And we as a commission have heard it loud and clear. And like I said, I just want to lend my voice that we need to clean this up. If some people have to be terminated, so be it. I think there is a lot of misinterpretation on the First Amendment and the department's right to limit the speech, and I will throw a tattoo in there as speech, of a public employee. And I think they're hiding, frankly, I'm just going to say it, I think the department is hiding behind this First Amendment argument that they can't do anything. And I, for one, do not agree with that interpretation. And there's a lot of good case law that I can point to that would support my position. So once again, I don't want to take too much time, but I just wanted to add my voice. We need to clean house on this whole issue of deputy gangs, cliques, subgroups. Thank you.
Captain Yeager, I think as Commissioner Harris has said, you've heard commissioners loud and clear. You've heard the public, and I hope that you will take what has been said here and passionately argued here back to the department and back to Chief Burson and back to Sheriff Villanueva to let them know that while we support the sheriff's policy, we need to see some action. And we will welcome you back when there is some action, because to not act at this point is really fatal. So unless you have some closing remarks. I think we will thank you for coming here. Thank you for listening, and hope you have listened. So again, Captain Yeager, thank you very much.
Chairman Leal, can I just add one comment?
Yes, quickly, Cass,
Well, one
because I think
concern is that we've all stated our concerns, but it seems to me like we've done in the past, is we should put some of these concerns in writing, some of these questions in writing, and try to get answers from them. Answers to what Judge Bonner was asking, is it going to be part of the disciplinary guidelines? Are the symbols going to be eradicated? Is there any progress in identifying any of these symbols? Or what affirmative steps are being taken? It seems to me that those kinds of things have to be put in writing, so when we come back again with an update, that there's something we can refer to, rather than rehashing it from memory.
I think that's a good suggestion, and I think we should work with the staff and our executive director and do that. I think it's a good position to take, and I think at this point it's now 20 minutes to 11. Jennifer, shall we take our 15-minute break?
Yes, that sounds like a good time.
Okay. See you all in 15.
So we will come back at 10:55. 57. Thank you. Okay, and it looks like we're just starting to wrap up to our any of the commissioners who have returned. Please go ahead and turn your video camera on so that we can confirm that everyone's in their seats. Okay, Lael, and it does look like all of the commissioners are back in front of the computer, so you can go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Okay. Thank you very much. And we now have agenda item 2B, which was supposed to have been the discussion of the sheriff's budget. We were supposed to have representatives from the CEO's office, as well as from the sheriff's department. But because of the fact that the CEO's office continues to work, hopefully expeditiously and efficiently on budget issues and the supplemental budget, they have indicated that they were not in a place that they could come and address us. I know that that's something that we're all disappointed in. I spent a lot of time with some material trying to understand the budgetary considerations. And I hope that when they do come, that they will help us understand the nature of what the county is facing and certainly the issues that the sheriff has. Despite the fact that we are not going to have a presentation on budget, Jennifer, I understand that there are some members of the public who have indicated that they wanted to speak on this item, and I would be interested in what they have to say because we continue to send information and questions to the CEO, and I think their input could be helpful. So if you would go ahead and do that.
Excellent. And we do have 9 individuals signed up for public comment, and we will be providing 2 minutes. Our first comment will come from Audrey George. Please go ahead with your comment, Audrey. Audrey George, you are unmuted. Please go ahead with your comment. Okay, hearing nothing, we'll go to Joseph Maslich next. Please go ahead with your comment, Joseph.
Hello, commissioners, again. In the course of, I call it some street research, I'd like to offer you my results. I had a chat with a LAPD officer, and I asked him first if I could talk to him and make a comment about what's happening these days. He nodded. And I said, you know, a lot of changes coming up. And I'd like to see personally myself, I said, everybody who has a role in the system as it is now ought to have a chance to have a role in the systems that develop as things change. However, their work may need to change, and you know their role. And I didn't tell him, but I think even the department that they're working in. And he thought about it. He said, "I'm okay with change. I'm not okay with a pay cut." And I want that to be a part of discussion. I committed to him. I said, "Well, that's important. I think that needs to be negotiated and discussed." So, along with all the changes, what are we doing for basic rights of people? They don't have a right to lifetime employment with any department of the county, but that's something for discussion. I think it may mean a motivation for people to resist change, conscious or unconscious motivation to resist change, job security, pay, things like that. And that ought to be put on the table as part of discussion. Another point I'd like to think you to think about, maybe take a look at the LA Times editorial. I think it was on the 19th. Think carefully before rolling back LAPD on traffic and other duties. You know, as we devise, and I've been convinced for, I think, a few decades, that many things that are done by deputy sheriffs and police officers ought to be done otherwise, even resulted from my interview that I conducted with an unhappy jail deputy in 1967. I started thinking, hey, why do we need to have deputies doing this? The federal prisons I was in all over the country, they had correctional officers with their own training, things like that. And I know you have a limited amount in the jails for that, but think through the needs and then the budget will follow.
Thank you. And the next public comment will come from Justin Porter. Please go ahead with your comment, Justin. Justin Porter, you are unmuted. Please go ahead with your public comment. Okay, hearing nothing, we'll move on to the next person. Tamar K, please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so the fact that they did not even show up for this presentation is problematic, right? And so we need to absolutely defund the sheriff. We need to fund services in our communities for housing, healthcare, education, mental health services, all the services that we're lacking. The sheriff's and LAPD's budget eats up, right? And we're lacking these service. The sheriff doesn't make us feel safe. They target and murder in Black and brown communities, and then they try to sweep it under the rug like nothing happened. Like Bill Yeager goes on as a propaganda machine, an arrogant propaganda machine at that, and tries to cover up police murder, along with the sheriff who evades subpoena power. The sheriff needs to be fired. He needs to resign. Bill Yeager needs to go. And we need that money diverted back in our communities. And we need to create our own community public safety programs. We keep us safe. The sheriff does not. They terrorize, they murder in our communities, and they're still on the job and getting paid to do so with well-known gang membership, affiliation, and nobody's doing anything about it, right? So we absolutely need to defund the sheriff. We need, and that means, to me, that means also abolition. I'm an abolitionist. I don't believe in slave catching because that's what the sheriff and the police department were founded in. And they continue to terrorize and murder these communities, and you're getting paid tons of money to do so when we're in the middle of a pandemic and there's not even enough housing. We have 60, maybe 70,000 homeless right now, and you continue to fund a sheriff department that murders, and there's zero accountability, and the DA continues to sweep it under the rug.
Thank you.
Defund the sheriff.
Thank you. Next comment will come from Jessica Conrad. Please go ahead with your comment, Jessica.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Awesome. So I just want to say that I do support budget cuts for the LASD. And I also think, I know that a couple weeks back, Sheriff Villanueva had said that if there were budget cuts, then it would result in them shutting down the Special Victims Bureau and other parts of the department. I think that's borderline extortion. I know they handle their own budget, so they make those decisions. And I've taken a quick look at the budget, not super in depth, but I know that there's like hundreds of millions of dollars in flexible funds, and I doubt that the Special Victims Bureau is flexible funds. I don't have too much more to say on the budget other than I support the cuts because I think that the budget is very bloated, and I know I have public comment later, so I'll just have that be the end of my time for right now.
Thank you. And the next will come from Regi Bunch. Please go ahead with your comment, Regi.
Yes, the budget needs to reflect this idea that the Sheriff's Department is not worthy of a large portion of that money. So when we talk about the Sheriff's Department's budget, what we are also talking about is about the emboldeningness of Sheriff Villanueva and his wicked regime. And so I think what this political moment is teaching us is that when you take away money from him, he lashes out like a little man child. He lashes out because he feels like you're taking away his power, and rightfully so, because that money is better suited in community-based systems of care. And I think the CLC should make a recommendation to the CEO's office about how 30 to 40 to 50% of that budget can be reallocated towards community-based needs. And then we were seeing this in the city of Minneapolis. We're seeing this across police departments across this country, that these departments don't need the money because it was given to them in 1994 by Joe Biden in order to go after these predators. But the reality is that was a lie, and then that whole embolstering of these police departments was unnecessary. And the sheriff's department needs to be radically skinified, and that money needs to be back into the community yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you. And the comment will come from Pastor Q. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, obviously we support reimagining public safety. One of the issues we have with mass incarceration is that we've built, and I hear the comment regarding deputies' pay, and they're worried about a pay cut, and that's real. When you build a society of mass incarceration on the backs of Black and brown folks, we should not be building a society on a penal system or incarcerating one group of people while having the other group of people see that as their way of surviving. And so because of that, we have created divisions between Black and brown folks, and mostly Black so-called minority folks and white folks, because many white folks are looking at the sheriff department as something that protects them, but they don't have deputy gangs in the West Side. So of course they're not going to feel threatened. And we're saying you can't continue to build this system and have a budget that reflects that you're incarcerating more Black and brown folks, and you're doing it now so that you can keep your job. So we should have built a better system to begin with, and we need to reimagine public safety, one that is more moral for our entire society and that does not victimize what minority groups of folks or folks who are marginalized in order to keep that system going. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last comment from Gina Viola. Please go ahead with your comment, Gina.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. I don't understand why law enforcement seems to be the only group that isn't subject to reduction in size. You know, since COVID times, most people I know have experienced either a drastic reduction in work or have lost jobs altogether, I myself included. And it seems outrageous to me that that doesn't just go across the board towards law enforcement. In fact, during COVID, we've done all that we can to decarcerate the jails and prisons, yet we haven't seen any decrease in law enforcement to correlate with that. In addition, we have a sheriff who does not want to answer to the voters. He does not want to answer to the Oversight Commission. He does not want to answer to the Board of Supervisors. So honestly, the only way to make any inroads with this is to defund. You have to starve the beast. You have to reduce funds so that it isn't possible for him to continue to go into Black, brown, and poor areas and continue to terrorize folks. We're seeing no change in that behavior with the whole world watching, with this culture shift that's coming, with the whole country clamoring to defund the police, and the police are still out murdering Black, brown, and poor folks at the regular. You have some control over that by using the purse strings. So I urge you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lael, that does conclude all public comment for this item.
Thank you. And thank you for those individuals who spoke to these issues. I hope that we will get to be hearing from the CEO and the sheriff on the budget issue sometime soon. Now I'd like to go to the executive director's report. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Lael, and members of the commission. Just a few things to report on. As you know, the National Associations of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement Conference, it's been a virtual conference, has been going on for the past month and a half or so. I'm pleased to report that we did a seminar this past week involving the use of force and de-escalation techniques. So I wanted to publicly thank Uncle Bobby from the San Francisco area, who is the uncle of the young man who was killed at the Fruitvale station. I wanted to thank Chief Kelly from the Las Vegas Police Department, and I wanted to thank the sergeant, I can't think of her name all of a sudden, from the LA County Sheriff's Department, who all participated in this program. We have one more that is going to come up that we're going to participate in mid-September, which talks about the formation of oversight commissions. We have a number of local folks who are going to sit on that particular panel. And we'll send that information out to you all as soon as we possibly can, as long as things are all shored up. Also wanted to point out that yesterday I had a meeting with the ACLU and a number of families from throughout town, but principally from the east side of town. And there continue to be complaints, and we'll likely hear from some of the families today concerning the relationship between the east side community and the East LA Sheriff's Station, specifically some harassment that's been going on. I know that we have explored this issue before and asked for a report from the department, and they did in fact report back to us and attempted to reach out to some of the families. But it appears that the families are still very seriously concerned, and there should be some rightfully so concern over the activities of the sheriff's deputies on the east side of town and their relationship with the families. And we wanted to see if there's something that we could do about it. So I wanted to bring that to the commission's attention. The staff is certainly going to continue to work with these families and other groups concerning what's happening out there, and we will keep you posted. And with that, that concludes my report.
Thank you, and it's good to hear that you're working with the East Side families who continue to be very vocal and very concerned. Do any commissioners have any comments or questions for Mr. Williams?
Mr. Tolentino has a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Williams, what exactly are the community complaints on the east side?
Well, this from several families who have had some unfortunate, deadly interactions with the Sheriff's Department. They continue to state that they are being followed by certain deputies, that they're being harassed by certain deputies. There was a rally which occurred over the weekend, or perhaps the previous weekend, where it looks like there is the potential for a great confrontation between the folks who were gathered to remember some of the folks who have been felled by law enforcement and the deputies out there. So there's this caustic relationship that's going on between the deputies and certain segments of the community. We're trying to get to the bottom of it. We're going to attempt to do that. And our intention is to work with the local board offices and other community-based organizations to see if we could come to some sort of resolution and shed some additional light on the situation out there.
Is it just you, the East LA? Is it just the COC and ACLU involved, or is the Sheriff's Department involved? It seems to me that this falls into the policy clearly.
Yeah, we intend to involve the Sheriff's Department as well. This has been a long-standing issue. This is not anything new. And once again, we've made some efforts, I think it was last October or November, to address this issue. Intervening events, of course, sort of swayed our focus on this, but I just wanted to report again that we are going to focus upon this. It sounds like it's the similar issues that are going on. I know there's been some change in the leadership of the station out in East LA, but at least from the community's point of view, the situation has not changed. And we've really got to get to the bottom of this. We've got to figure out a way to make this situation better. and to stop the harassment and get some communication going on between all the parties involved.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. Was anybody, this is really a follow-up, was anybody from East LA Sheriff's at this meeting?
No, it was a virtual meeting. There was no one from the Sheriff's Department at that meeting.
Okay, it might be worthwhile to attempt to include somebody from the Sheriff's Department at a meeting. You know, the members of the community might take some offense at that, but I think it is important to get everybody at the table, at least to hear what everybody has to say.
Yeah, that's absolutely intent. I think our intent. I think you're absolutely right. We intend to bring, again, all the parties to the table, community-based organizations, those family members, the Sheriff's Department, certainly the board offices as well, to see if we can at least begin to level of communication that will allow us to address these issues. So I think that's the first step to get all the parties engaged.
Okay, terrific. Anybody else have any questions? All right, let's.
No, this is Commissioner Harris. Just you pretty much hit it, but just make sure that, yeah, it's the unit commander. That's where the rubber meets the road. And the unit commander of East LA Station needs to be involved in this in the biggest way possible. They can make a difference, but it's got to be engaged.
Gotcha.
All right, at this point, we'll go to Inspector General Max Huntsman. Do you have a report on significant activities for the Office of Inspector General?
I have nothing additional to say that I haven't already said, although I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Huntsman at this point?
Mr. Huntsman, where are we with these subpoenas and enforcing these subpoenas?
The two subpoenas that have actually been served, one of which is the one for the personal appearance of the sheriff, is in the slow process of the Superior Courts, which is slower under COVID. So I think I've seen some indication that it's beginning to get briefed, but it's not about to be resolved by the court. And the subpoena that was issued on our behalf for documents relating to the alleged cover-up regarding the helicopter crash has not been filed yet. The attorney for the county has been engaged in trying to arrange like a meet and confer with the sheriff's stand-in person. Since they don't use county counsel, they have a provided attorney, and there's supposed to be a meet and confer, but it hasn't happened yet. So that's gone essentially nowhere in terms of enforcement. And then, of course, the mask issue I've raised with this body through staff, a request for a subpoena for a third party, the Sassafras Saloon, where there was allegedly an unmasked party for the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department has called a hoax in social media. So I requested a subpoena, and that is going to, I think, be presented to the subpoena committee, but that hasn't happened yet. But in terms of actual enforcement, nothing has happened yet, and I wouldn't expect anything to happen soon.
Any other commissioner questions for Mr. Huntsman?
I just wanted to ask, this is Commissioner Bonner. Mr. Huntsman, insofar as you know, are you still under active investigation, you and your office, by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, not long ago, the sheriff on social media took a allegedly random question from his wife about whether or not I was under investigation. And his comment, I believe, was, yes, we have to investigate crimes. He recently reported the CEO to the AG for an alleged crime, a violation of 1090, conflict of interest based on a financial interest. She's on the board of the United Way, apparently, or was, and which is an unpaid position. But he made an allegation there, and I think the investigation of me is allegedly ongoing. But that's all I know.
I know you won't be intimidated at all by it, Mr. Huntsman, but I still think it is just totally inappropriate for the Sheriff's Department to be investigating the Inspector General, which is the watchdog agency for the Sheriff's Department. I just want to say that for the record. You don't have to respond unless you wish.
Well, I do wish to respond in that you're right. I won't be intimidated because it's not in my nature or my job duties. But I do believe it is an attempt to intimidate me. I think recently the sheriff made public comments regarding a commissioner on this body that I think were wholly inappropriate. And I think when this body sent a letter to Mr. Murakami, he represented that the investigation would be passed along to another agency because of the conflict of interest, but they just had to do a little bit of work on it. That was a year ago. So I think it's a very clear attempt at intimidation. It's part of a series of attempts at intimidation, and I appreciate your bringing it up. I don't want to be, beat a dead horse about it because it's all been said over and over. This is the world we currently live in. But thank you for re-mentioning it. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll move on to Commissioner, the ad hoc updates. I did mention at the beginning of the first few minutes about the sheriff's stand on not working with ICE relating to civilly turning over inmates to ICE unless there is a judicial warrant. But as chair of the Immigration Ad Hoc Committee, I wanted to know if you had any further input or update on those issues.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I think what you stated is correct and sufficient, just that we received that letter on August 3rd, informing us that the temporary moratorium that had been in effect for several months has been made permanent. And the sheriff's letter made clear that was a result of meetings with stakeholders in the community as well as the COC. So we're delighted about that. We thank the sheriff. We'd like to publicly thank him today as well, to him and his staff, because we think it's an important step forward and one that will increase public trust. So we're continuing to monitor as we have. Thank you to COC staff, Tracy Jordan Johnson, for her work on that. But like I said, we're continuing to look at it, and we see this as a very important step.
Madam Chair, could I just speak briefly?
Oh, go ahead. Max had his hand up first.
I'll defer to Judge Bonner, and then I had a comment I wanted to make, if it's okay.
Max should always defer to commissioners. Anyway, look, I want to say that I consider this adoption of a total moratorium by the sheriff to be an unwise policy. I think it's inconsistent with the fundamental duty of the sheriff and sheriff's department to protect our community and victims of crime against further crime. And it needlessly exposes both victims and the community to increased levels of crime by persons who are not legally in the United States, who have been convicted of serious and sometimes violent crimes. I think this is an unwise policy, but I realize that my position on this commission is a minority one, but I did want to state it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And if I could just add on this issue, obviously it's a complex issue, and there's a range of crimes and ways in which immigration enforcement should be done. So I don't want to minimize the point Judge Bonner is making, but I will say that this body has worked very strongly in a democratic way through a vote and has followed forth with it. And Commissioner Vera has been a big piece of that. And the Sheriff's Department has ultimately responded. My staff, I think, Shadi Cardan, as president, has worked very hard on reporting to you and to the board about repeated violations of the law, the California law regarding who could be turned over, and the use of resources, which I think this body highlighted in pointing out where those resources could be best placed. And I think what's happened here, regardless of anybody's particular opinion about it, is a response to this process, a response to the public who have had a strong opinion about it, a response to facts that we've put forward. And I think it's a great success in terms of bringing the sheriff's department to actually do things. And although I spoke earlier about the problem with secret societies and the mask problem, and I'm very disappointed in the positions that the sheriff has taken and the sheriff's department, but there's movement that there never was before. And so I think we're seeing that this body is starting to have a strong influence. It's hard. It's not, the sheriff doesn't come and talk to us, but things happen as a result. So I wanted to applaud the work of the ad hoc committee for pushing this forward, and this body for sticking with it, because we've seen an impact. And it's important that at some point the sheriff's department start responding to civilian oversight in a way that shows that they are responsive to the public, regardless of what the position is about the ultimate decision. We need to get that feedback loop working properly. So I wanted to thank you all for the work you put in it, and just highlight that, because sometimes you get criticism from the public, rightly so, when we don't succeed at getting in effect. And it's a different story. So just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Max, for that. Rob, I'd like to get some input from you on the use of force committee, and in particular on the announcement of the contracts for the body-worn cameras, finally. So if you want to address that, that would be great.
By way of a very brief report, Madam Chair, from the use of force ad hoc committee, let me say that the 18 reform recommendations that were approved by the Civilian Oversight Commission, by this commission at our last meeting, were presented both to the sheriff and to the Board of Supervisors. And more recently, a member of the staff presented to the so-called public safety cluster these 18 reform recommendations that have been put forward by the commission. The public safety cluster being made up of the justice deputies for the various supervisors. Beyond that, the use of force ad hoc, as you well know, Madam Chair, was also involved in developing the recommendations with respect to the implementation of body-worn cameras. And we were very pleased. I think you announced it earlier that the contract has now been let, and it looks like it's on track to begin the rollout of body-worn cameras to deputies starting in October, a little over a month from now, initially at 5 of the patrol stations, but shortly thereafter to all of the patrol stations. So we believe this is a very important step forward in terms of the overall issue that we're very concerned about, which is the reduction of the use of excessive force or inappropriate force, particularly lethal force, but any excessive force. That's our report. Certainly I or other members of the ad hoc are available to answer any questions that you or other members of the commission may have.
Thank you for that. Anybody else from the use of force ad hoc want to add anything at this point? Okay. Any of the other ad hoc committees have any updates at this point that they want to share?
Commissioner Rubin?
Yes.
Hi, it's Commissioner Ochen.
Yes.
So I just wanted to report on behalf of the Measure R ad hoc committee, which is comprised of myself, Commissioner Bonner, Commissioner Harris, and Commissioner Kennedy. We've met about 3 times to begin to outline how we're going to do the research and outline the process for our Measure R report, which is mandated by the Measure R ordinance. We are working with staff to outline a budget so that we can hire consultants and other staff to support what is a major undertaking. And we are establishing who we wish to speak to in terms of county entities, experts, and community organizations. So we're beginning the process, and we hope to have further updates as the weeks go by.
Okay, thank you for that. I did want to report on the ad hoc for the COVID-19 in the jail. We are very close to issuing an interim draft report, which This commission will have before the next meeting, our staff, Daniel Delgadillo and Tracy Jordan Johnson, have assisted us tremendously. We continue to have input. I mean, this is one of those subjects that, appropriately so, just never seems to go away. And but I think we've come to the point that it is time to get published what we have learned so far and what our recommendations are going to be. And so that will happen within the next couple of weeks. Anybody else from any of the other ad hoc committees? Patty?
Thank you. Yes, the ad hoc committee for has not met recently, although we have been in touch with Lieutenant Gannon. So I'm hoping that we will find a time in the very near future to reconvene and take the temperature again of how Met is doing. But as you know, we did send a letter to the Board of Supervisors supporting funding for the continuation of Met. The other issue that we need to meet on, and which is the family assistance project. I know that they got bogged down. There were so many county departments and so many people engaged on it, and it was moving pretty well in the beginning. But I think since COVID-19, I haven't heard anything. So I'm now going to see if that can come alive and see what's going on over there. So that committee will also hopefully meet in the coming weeks.
Thank you for that, Patty. That the family assistance, as you know, is and wasn't an issue of great concern that we really started out with at the beginning of the formation of this commission. And you've done a yeoman's job in terms of getting this moving. Unfortunately, as you say, there are a number of county agencies who were involved in this. And while everybody's busy with other things and we have to meet like this, it's important to our credibility with the families who really need this assistance more than ever. So I hope you'll be able to get that moving.
Could I say something on that subject?
Okay, sure. Then I have a comment too, but yes, Max.
I just wanted to add, just informationally, because of COVID-19, the Family Assistance Program has taken a huge hit. I don't believe currently the CEO has budgeted the annual payments for funeral expenses that were initially a key part of the program. And I don't think DMH has hired permanent staff, nor do I think CEO has budgeted the permanent staff. So essentially, this, in addition to, as Patty has pointed out, the bureaucratic challenge of multiple agencies, which is an ongoing problem. There's a very real budget problem with this program. So if this body wants to, as you're saying, continue to champion this program, I think it's going to take some pushing to make sure it gets back in the budget list of things. It's always very hard in times of a budget reduction. The CEO is always looking for things to save a little money on. So if we wanted to go forward, I think there needs to be some championing of it.
Thank you for that, Patty.
Yeah, I exactly. And I know that there has been some of the counseling pieces and support have gone on. I know that so some families have been able to be supported in those ways. And I think that, what's extraordinary, just to remind everyone, but we had the Department of Public Health, the coroner, our commission, the Department of Mental Health, all in support and in working in conjunction. So it is a very, very important groundbreaking program, actually. So, and I think it was Ingrid who was working with us. I'm trying to remember who now. That's how long it's been. Yeah. So want to get in touch with our staff and see if we can rekindle the engagement that we had pre-COVID.
Any other ad hoc groups have anything that they want to report at this point in time? Okay, if not, Jennifer, you want to go ahead with public?
Absolutely. So there are 0 items or 0 the public who wish to comment on item 3, commission updates. But going to general public comment, we have 10 individuals who are signed up for public comment. But an announcement in Spanish.
Si necesita que su comentario sea traducido al inglés, por favor diga la palabra inglés antes de su comentario y alguien traducirá su comentario después de que termine. Gracias.
Thank you. And our first public comment will come from Julie Martinez. Just a second, I'm having some computer freezing issues. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Julie, you are
Hello?
unmuted. Please, Julie, you are unmuted. Please go ahead with your public comment. You have 2 minutes beginning now.
Yes, this is regarding to harassment of families who have had family members who were killed by the LA County Sheriff Department. In reference to Mr. Williams' August 15 event, there was a peaceful rally made up mainly of families, mothers, grandmothers, siblings of those who had been shot and murdered by deputy sheriffs. There were snipers on the building. They were in full weapon gear. They had guns pointed at us. They were unmarked cars, which we were unable to identify. In addition to other harassments, both my granddaughters have been harassed. One was 22 years old and was arrested, and charges were eventually dropped. My 14-year-old granddaughter was followed outside of her junior high school by deputy sheriffs who slowly followed her in a car and made jokes in reference to her brother, Paul Rea, who was murdered by deputies in East LA. In addition, this last week, this 14-year-old who's now 15 was handcuffed and put in a car when her mother was questioned about expired tags. The deputy sheriffs also called in 10 reinforcements. One of the most egregious complaints I have is an East LA sheriff, a female sheriff sergeant, told my family how to use, when they go out in public, that they should be using a Heil Hitler salute. She demonstrated with her hand and told them, when you go out in public, and if you show up at any more of your family protests, this is what you should do. And she fully demonstrated what the salute that was used in Nazi Germany and Hitler, and the salute which we see on the streets. So I wish Captain Yeager was here, because that is definite behavior. That's a definite example of behavior that is followed up through the utilization of deputy gang insignia and symbols.
Thank you. And the next comment will come from Justin. Please go ahead with your comment. Justin, you're unmuted. Justin? Okay, it seems not speaking with us. Next, we'll go to Joseph Maslich. Please go ahead with your comment, Joseph.
Hello. This is to look back a little at the cliques issue, but it's broader than that. You know, whenever there's behavior that we don't like, maybe our own or maybe behavior of others, it's worth taking a look at what are the needs that are being expressed, maybe poorly expressed, maybe in a dangerous way, whatever. What are the needs that are being expressed, and what are the needs of the people who are involved in these cliques and subgroups? A part of the answer, I believe, and there are probably many parts. One of them is a feeling of isolation, maybe isolation from their leadership in the organization, but certainly isolation from the community. And it's not surprising, alienation and isolation in a situation of extreme inequality and extreme racialized inequality that we have, and that they, like it or not, represent by being out on the streets. They're the people from the government, and that represents government, and it represents sometimes also the general economic and social situation. So people may want to group and band together. This actually has an implication for what we may do to help, as well as monitoring the behavior, watching out for the factors like the joining, the exiting, the intimidation, and all of that that we referred to earlier. But also, what kind of ongoing support in a constructive way can the deputies have that can be offered to them, whether it's some kind of group meetings, whatever. Now, I speak of somebody who is a crisis counselor for workplaces, so I have some perspective. Maybe they'll ridicule it, they won't want it, whatever. But, and they do have a certain amount of workplace support, I'm sure. But something regularized, something or other that would be responsive to that need. Another thing that would be responsive to the need, though, is for the commission to take a stand for improvement in the social conditions.
Thank you. Thank you. And the next comment will come from Jessica Conrad. Please go ahead with your comment, Jessica.
Hi, so I'm a resident of Santa Clarita, and as you may know, we had an incident on August 7th that involved sheriff's deputies detaining 3 teenagers, 2 of them black minors at gunpoint, including 1 deputy with an assault rifle. I just wanted to call in and express general and overall concern with the conduct of the sheriff's department everywhere, but here in my community included. We are a pretty law enforcement heavy community, mostly white, affluent, so we don't see the kind of policing that Black and brown communities do typically. But in the past couple months, there has definitely been an escalation. We've been scrutinizing them as a community, and they have sort of ramped up the things that they've been doing within the community in response to that, as well as the scrutiny from that incident. They talked to the news about that, but never once came to the community over it. We've seen them do things like sweep homeless encampments in the middle of a pandemic and record heat wave. We had a 20-year-old activist who was assaulted by a counter protester, and the police, he called the police and the sheriff's deputies, and they stood there and laughed and joked with him and did not allow the woman who was assaulted to press charges. They had an alleged shooter situation at a Wendy's where they brought in like 30 cars and the copter and strike team and told residents that they were in the direct line of fire and had to go back inside. There was a case a few days ago where a local newspaper described the incident as a deputy-involved fight where a citizen was, quote, possibly striking car windows with a skateboard. Noticeably is never mentioned to have attacked the deputy. There was a medical emergency call at that time and location, so that person needed medical attention. And they operate with a complete lack of accountability, so we won't know the full details of that situation. But they are conducting themselves just totally unacceptably.
Thank you. And the next comment will come from Audrey George. Please go ahead, Audrey.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Regarding the judge, I just wanted to say that I every time I hear him speak and hear his law and order worldview, criminalizing undocumented people who live their whole lives feeling that their vulnerability to the very core of their being. I just shudder to think about how many similarly vulnerable people have in the past been dehumanized and criminalized by his courtroom rulings. The only gratifying aspect of his role on the COC is clear sense that those views set him apart, rightly so from the more general ability of other commissioners to understand what reimagining public safety really looks like. In his view, clearly, public safety is embodied by the wholesale incarceration and deportation of an entire class of people. The Sheriff's Department needs to be defunded in the immediate sense with a total view toward dismantling. How can anyone listen to stories like that from the family of Mr. Reyes without having their hearts broken, without believing that we need care first, and that we need an end to the deadly era of repression that we have seen from the LA sheriffs? Defund the sheriffs. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next comment will come from Tamar K. Please go ahead with your comment.
I'm sorry, may I just ask you real quick, is this general public comment or general public comment
Yes.
for the reports?
Tamara, this is general public comment for the commission as a whole.
Okay, very good. Thank you for clarifying. So, first of all, I want to honor Paul Reyes' family for being on here. And it's disgraceful that the family continues to be harassed and they're handcuffing 14-year-olds and putting them in back of cars. I was actually at that function for Memorial for Anthony Vargas and saw them in full force, ready to attack. Well, there was children there. There were babies there present. And these families were just speaking on their loved one who was murdered and honoring these loved ones. And they were in full force. And they continue to harass and target these families and their children. It's pretty disgraceful. So real quickly, I also want to focus not only on East LA, but we need to look at South LA too, where Andres Gordardo was murdered, right? Or Ryan Twyman was murdered, where AJ Weber was murdered. So the sheriff is investigating the attorney general, Mr. Max Huntsman, but who's investigating them? There's no investigation for the sheriff themselves and the murders that they're committing. But they want to investigate the people, the very people that's supposed to investigating the sheriff. That's a problem. Another thing I want to say, Mr. Tolentino was on the right direction, saying we absolutely need that in writing, a list of demands. I think would be a way to call that we need a list of demands regarding these sheriff gangs and murders and the budget so we can get results. That absolutely needs to be in writing. So good for you, Mr. Tolentino, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, on getting that in writing, getting a list of demands going. Also, the body camera, the language is problematic. And what are actually those 18 reforms? I'd like to know what was approved by the commission on that. And lastly, the slow process of the subpoena power is a problem.
Thank you. And the next comment will come from WM. Please go ahead with your comment.
Oh, I didn't know I was listed, but that's okay. I'll go ahead and comment. I can always comment on this stuff. Okay, so I would want one question I have. I don't know if you guys can answer in this forum, but I do want to know why all the commissioners are not always here at these meetings. And there's a couple that I've never seen, and I've been calling in for some time. So one, I want to know what's the protocol, and if they're not going to be involved and they're not going to be public about their position, then I'm going to ask them to stand down. That's that. The other comment I can go ahead and comment on that's always dear to my heart, and I've been fighting in other spaces, is about inmates that are, currently in custody, being exposed to COVID. I don't know who's fighting for them. I've tried to call myself to public health. You're online for hours. You can't even get through. These guys need representation. They need advocacy. I know that there are people that do crimes and they're there for a certain reason, but that doesn't mean they're animals, and that doesn't mean they don't have rights. So they're being shuffled from dorms to cohorts of being exposed to COVID versus positive or negative. Some are showing up positive with no symptoms, but yet they're being housed with people who have symptoms, which means that can also contribute to spread, et cetera. So we need a body, and I don't know if it can be a subgroup in this commission group here, since you are already oversight with LASD, but we need a body that is specifically representing inmates, as well as those that are mentally ill, and we've heard this over and over and over, but mentally ill and criminalized and in there, and being subject to all kinds of abuses because they're mentally ill and frail, et cetera, et cetera. So that would be my only comment at the moment. Well, other than the budget issue, I continue to stand on defunding the sheriffs for all the reasons that have already been stated. They don't deserve it. They have not shown any true representation of using money appropriately. And just like the lady said about Santa Clarita, those are across this nation, but we're talking about LA County. So yes, it continues despite all the protests, all of the screams and cries for help, they are continuing to target our people, meaning Black and brown, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you. And the next public comment will come from Alan Zuckerman. Please go ahead with your comment, Alan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Good. Okay, I have a prepared statement. No right-minded individual would deny what happened in Minneapolis was wrong, and any current or former law enforcement officer would be the first to affirm that reality. What is wrong and dangerous, though, is to characterize the event as proof of systematic illegal use of force by law enforcement on minorities. The current literature all contradicts that notion. Just a few studies, for example, the U.S. Department of Justice, the Washington Post, Harvard University, all contradict the notion of differential treatment of minorities versus whites in the use of force by police. Numerous valid studies support this contention. The studies conclude that white officers are no more likely than Black or Hispanic officers to shoot Black civilians. It is a racial group's rate of violence that determines the use of force, not the race of the officer. The COC's press release subsequent to the Floyd incident was inflammatory and dangerous. Your statement, and to quote, this nation has collectively failed Black people and other people of color time and time again, and an unjust system, many lives lost in Los Angeles County who have been killed by illegal acts by Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, unfairly perpetrates the myth that law enforcement systematically kills minorities because of racial bias. The categorical myth has proven lethal, as witnessed by the outright assassination of 5 police officers in Texas, officers in Georgia, New York, and numerous others in our country, with serious injuries and deaths to police and citizens alike during the recent riots. By endorsing Black Lives Matter in your press release, the COC further inflames greater dissension by endorsing a group that is led by self-proclaimed Marxists, call for the police.
Thank you. And that does conclude your public comment. The next comment will come from Reggie Lunch. Please go ahead with your comment, Reggie.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm calling all the way from Ohio. If you haven't noticed or don't know, I moved to Ohio to do this same community organizing against another jail plan here in my home state. And so, and to get back to that whole what Captain Yeager was doing today, I think he recognizes. I think we need to recognize as a COC is that he does not recognize the COC in his chain of command. Because if he felt like y'all had commanding power, he would have shown more respect and offered more insight into what they can do about those sheriff gangs. And so I hope that there's more robust discussion around you all's investigative power, that the Captain Yeager's office doesn't need to investigate because the COC is going to be the one doing the investigation, which includes disciplinary power. And so I just want to reiterate that, and I wish you all the best. You have a lot ahead of you and a lot to do, but whew, let's get it done. God blessings to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And the next comment from Gina Viola. Please go ahead with your comment.
Hi. First, I would like to thank this commission for how thoughtfully you arrange for public comment. I think it's worth noting that Jennifer takes just great measures to make sure that we all get an opportunity to be heard, and that is not something I'm finding anywhere else. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that, and also to acknowledge Paul Rhea's family for being here. I will tell you that I have been attending Angel Versaries for a couple of years now, and I've watched sheriffs terrorize grieving mothers, grieving family members over and over again. This Saturday was no exception. They were mocking the group of people that were there. They were laughing. They were pretty much engaging. I mean, they are an active counter protester now, except that they are a counter protester with license to kill and harm us. So, you know, defund the police is not a hashtag. Defund the sheriff is not a hashtag. It's a demand for community safety. Our community will not be safe with this sheriff in its current state in our communities. We heard from Santa Clarita what it's like for them out there. And I'm grateful that there's a small group of folks out there bringing light to what the sheriff is doing out there as well. It's not just in East LA. It's not just in the Valley. It's not just in South LA. Honestly, it's everywhere that the sheriff is. Everywhere that the sheriff is, everywhere that law enforcement is in LA County is not safe. And the way to change that is to defund the sheriff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And the last person for public comment, Pastor Q, I see your hand is raised. Did you have a public comment item? Pastor Q, you're unmuted. Did you have a public comment item? Okay, and Lael, it looks like this does conclude all of our comments for general public comment.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I'm so glad that the last speaker made reference to how helpful Jennifer has been in terms of making sure the public comment moves swiftly and efficiently and giving people an opportunity to speak even when we're not face to face. So I'm so glad that she mentioned that, and you deserve our thanks as well. That appears to be the conclusion of this commission meeting. The next meeting of the Civilian Oversight Commission, as I said at the beginning, will be September 17th. So please make sure and visit our website at coc.lacounty.gov for more information regarding our next meeting. We are adjourned. Thank you all.